would certainly ditto that. I think there's a big difference between lack of communication between the administration and city council and the division of power that is now between city council and the administration. I think they can improve on communication and not need to work on the division of power. I think that with the ethics that goes on, I agree with Johnny, and that an ethical leader at the top, that gets sent from the top down. I've personally been able to access information I was looking for on the city's website. I've seen it become much more transparent. Those minutes are available early. I get sent links and documents all the time. I think the city's made tremendous gains in the last 5 years of being more transparent and more open to citizens or anybody else that wants to gather information. I think that's something that we can continue with. More information and transparency, all of those documents, like I said, when business deals come up and they're negotiating the sale of land and real property, sometimes those things need to be expedited. And the administration needs to have the flexibility to work on that, but all of that information and how those negotiations went will be available to the public when those decisions are agreed upon by council and the mayor's office.
Thank you. Mr. Goddard.
Currently, the way that the council or the city government's set up, I think is great. From a business point of view, you have the mayor, the chairman of the board, you have the council, and the board of directors. As far as, we just need to make sure we work together and address the needs of our city. Ethics on campaign donations, obviously that's something that I'd be for, but I think no matter what laws are in place, you either have ethics or you don't. It's nothing that can be taught to you. It's people will tend to find loopholes, and it'll be an uphill battle fighting that, but running an ethical government is paramount to this. And transparency is wonderful. Like Mike said, the online documents that have been coming on the Ogden City website are wonderful, and that's just another way that we can make government more transparent for Ogden.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson.
As I understand government, and as you, the public, go out to vote, you're going to be voting for 5 things in a person when you elect them. First is public trust. Second is integrity. Third is their responsibility to the public. Third is their accountability to the public, or fourth. And fifth is checks and balances in your government. When it comes to the city council, they are the check and balance between the administration and the legislative branch. When it comes to ethics in government, I think the conflict of interest forms are right now mandatory when a person takes office, and never again does he have to redo that until the next term. I would like to see that updated every 3 months, once a quarter, and then put online so people can see what conflicts of interest our elected officials have. When it comes to more transparency, I think that we do need everything online so that our public can see exactly what our elected officials are up to.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, thank you. I haven't been on the city council for 7.5 years. I think that that balance of power issue, it's always a back and forth. I think what really helps in that situation the very most is when both sides are communicative and collaborative in their efforts to move government in whatever direction the goals may be taking it. I think that that's really the critical element. The back and forth as far as the legislative versus executive powers are, it's a good balance in Ogden, and sometimes it's a fight, but generally we come up with a pretty good answer. As far as the ethics, financial or otherwise, I know the City Council addressed last year the ordinances related to finances for elections, and we added some additional restrictions. So I think it's just an iteration that just happens over and over again, and I think we'll ever be looking at the ordinances to try and plug holes. Online information is, I think we need to be as open and as positive as we can and allow as much information to the public as possible.
Mr. Thompson.
Transparency, yes. I'm for full transparency in all aspects of government. Ethics, yes, but that is a moving target. So, but I am, hopefully I have ethics. Regard to the council is the sole decider. The current mayor has had 24 councils he had to deal with. The mayor cannot pass anything. The sole decision authority is, by our form of government, rests with the legislative body. There's not a balance of power. There's a checks and balances. The two branches are not equal. So in my viewpoint, the council should be the one that has the responsibility. Whether you're for or against anything that happened in the last 12 years, if you blame the mayor in particular, you also have to share that responsible blame with the council, because he was not allowed to do anything without their concurrence, and vice versa. So that's my position. The sole decision-making should rest, and it has to rest with the council.
Thank you. That ends our series of raise your hand questions, and we're going to start now asking questions that have come from the audience. We have a pretty good stack of these, and we probably can handle some more. So if you have additional questions that are coming to mind as we go through these, please write them down and our runners will pick them up. So here's the first question, and we're going to start with Mr. Caldwell. Our schools are failing some of our children. How do you plan to fix the Ogden City schools?
If anybody had that silver bullet. I've actually spent the last 2 years with a parent group called Seeking Excellence in Education, and we have spent time interfacing with. We toured West High School. We've toured a number of other high schools that have the International Baccalaureate programs as a part of their curriculum, and we've successfully implemented that in Ogden School District. Next year it will be implemented as a full IB program at Ogden High School. That's one area. We believe that there are some special needs kids here that certainly have a higher need for rigor. We counted 27 families in our friends group that had left the Ogden area because they didn't feel that there was a rigorous enough academic program for them to put their kids in. We want to stop that brain drain and keep all of our best and brightest in our schools here. We have some significant needs in the inner city areas and some support that needs to happen there. We've met with a number of those principals and teachers as we've been addressing this as that seat group, and I think it's important that they get the support and a champion in the office. The Ogden City Mayor's office doesn't vote on that board, doesn't allocate a lot of those resources, but he can absolutely give support and strength, highlight the successes we've seen in the Ogden School District across the board. He can change the reputation and I think improve a lot of the different options we have here for our kids in education.
Okay, and Mr. Goddard, we're going to give you a crack at this one.
This is obviously a big strike against us as relocating businesses come to Ogden. That's one of the first things they ask. What are the schools like for our children? And unfortunately, you have to turn the report upside down for Ogden High and Ben Lomond to place first. And so, this is something that a lot of community involvement is going to have to take place. Involvement with the mayor's office. I'm currently on the board for United Way, and we're rolling out a pilot program called Ogden United. This is a program to go out, and it's been put in other cities to try and work with a lot of community involvement and parental involvement within the schools. This program will involve the mayor's office, the school board, and the United Way in conjunction to do that. So it's programs like this that we need to start kind of taking our schools back.
Thank you. New question. And this time we're going to start with you, Mr. Ballard. With a 26% Hispanic population moving to 38% by 2025, what is your play for this diversity?
Well, we know that the ostrich approach does not work, right? As I've knocked doors, there are a ton of people who are very welcoming, and there are the people who are frustrated that some of the signage is not in our language, and so it's a very polarized group. I think that there's much that we can do to actually help a lot of the parents, to help their children as far as learning the language. As I've been talking with a lot of the schools, it seems like at about the 3rd grade is when the kids start falling off the charts. Why? That's the age when they go home and say, hey, Mom and Dad, I need help on my homework, and the parents don't know the language. Again, as Mike put, that's not the mayor's sandbox, but we can be voice. As far as the Hispanic people, they're very, very hardworking. I'd like them to be legal, and I would like them to be able to contribute to everything that we know and love. And if they don't have that attitude, that something needs to be done.
Thank you. And Mr. Hanson.
The demographics of Ogden is more than just white and Hispanics. Ogden is the most diverse community in the whole state. We've got 29 different nationalities that actually live here in Ogden. How many of us can learn 29 different national languages? I don't know that we can. But I think that our diversity really can be our stronghold. In our schools, I think that's probably one of the best places that brings the diversity together. As you look at community councils within our schools, I think that's where our parents get involved with the PTAs, and those community councils is really the key to having a strong and thriving community. And once again, that would be bringing our diversity to a very strong course within our community.
Thank you. This question will start with you, Mr. Stevenson. Could you elucidate a water-wise plan that could bring non-culinary water to those of us that live below Harrison?
Well, I think that when we're talking about the non-culinary water, I think that everybody recognizes the culinary water is very, very expensive, and in order to bring additional secondary water into other parts of the city, I think we can do it actually. I think that it is possible to do it in segments, certain areas. We would have to work with the secondary water companies in order to do it over a period of time, and the infrastructure costs money. But I know that currently the administration is actually discussing certain places, points where we can bring secondary water, and that would continue that by identifying the specific areas and locations that are closest to the infrastructure, and then building a little bit at a time. And I think it's a great idea, actually. So.
And Mr. Thompson, would you respond to that one as well?
I agree with Brandon.
Okay. Next question. Caught me off guard there.
I apologize.
Well, Susie, we'll start with you this time. What can you offer towards the continued growth of small business in Ogden?
I think that's where most of the jobs are created, is small business in Ogden. I haven't seen a lot of things coming forward that help our small business. There's so many issues that come with when we give out grants and tax increment and all of those money issues that we give to big business, that we've been ignoring our local economy, which is small business.
And Mr. Van Wagner, could you respond to that one as well?
Yes, thank you. There's a couple things that this all ties back to community development. Business stability comes from community development, comes from education, comes from our infrastructure, and we need to tie those two together for additional business stability here in Ogden. I put business here in Ogden. I put a business on 25th Street. I put 2 businesses on 25th Street. I understand the challenges of small business here in Ogden, and yes, we need to allow and give other financing abilities for small bridge type lending to make sure that businesses have that ability to expand. I don't believe in giving businesses money to start their business. I think we need to look at our incentive program, maybe offer some type of incentive program at year 5 or sometime in the future, once they have their own skin in the game, they have proved their systems to be stable, and with that additional income, then they can expand with job growth, and that's what we need to focus on.
Thank you. New question, Mr. Ballard. Recently, we heard of Adobe moving to Lehigh, Procter & Gamble moving to Box Elder County, and eBay moving to Sandy. What would you do to get Ogden into consideration when these major companies move into Utah?
You've made the assumption that we weren't in the running. I don't know if that's the case or not. I work very closely with business development, and